Hey, what's up, folks? How's it going? This is Waj from MW Technology, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most legendary microphones of all times, the SM7B. Now, it was actually introduced over 50 years ago back in 1973, and they've made tiny revisions to the microphone, changing the overall improvements of the humbucking coil, but the core design and the core sound of the 7B from its original design hasn't really changed, and it's now pretty much legendary status in both the music and broadcast industry. It was used on Michael Jackson's Thriller, and now it's absolutely ubiquitous in the podcasting world, where you name any podcast and pretty much 100 times out of 100, they're using the 7B. And that's for a good reason. It's a great, very dynamic microphone that sounds great on vocals, but it's versatile enough to fit any kind of application that you can throw at it. Now, the original SM7B is a dynamic microphone, and compared to a powered condenser microphone, it's a little bit less sensitive, so you do need to have a decent preamp either built in to your USB audio interface or use a dedicated mic preamp. Now, if you're kind of on the budget side, you might be worried about whether you have adequate power to feed this monster of a microphone with your cheaper audio USB interface, or if you're on the higher side, you might need to have a large, clunky, proper mic pre that actually feeds a good enough power signal to get this up to proper levels for your recording. Now, what we have over here is the latest version of the 7B, specifically the SM7 DB, which actually includes a built-in preamp. Now, this pretty much adds the flexibility of what you would get with a traditional condenser microphone with the dynamics of a non-powered microphone. So you still have the ability to bypass the preamp and still have that classic SM sound. Now, the key thing that Shure has made sure that they've completely nailed is the original sound of the 7B with the preamp on and off. So we're going to do an A/B comparison to show you guys whether they have succeeded in that task. Now, we're actually using right now the 7B in its flat frequency response setting with the preamp on, set to the plus 28 decibel settings. We're going to turn off the mic pre on here and then use the built-in preamp on my cheaper M Audio mobile pre USB audio interface and see how that sounds. Now, what you're listening to right now is basically the classic SM7B without the preamp, and we're using the audio gain built into my mic pre on the USB audio interface. We pretty much have it cranked almost at 90%. I can go to full and you guys can get an aspect of that. And when you do boost your built-in preamp, especially if it's a cheaper preamp like what we have with this M Audio, you are introducing a lot of background noise as well as natural distortion that comes out of these cheaper Chinese made preamps. And this thing is like decades old, so definitely a good scenario of what you would encounter with a cheaper USB audio interface. Now we're pretty much maxed out, and if I go a little further back, we definitely don't have the same level of gain and the flexibility that we have with the built-in preamp, which opens you up for a lot of more use case applications as well as mic placing. Okay, so now we're back with the preamp on, and now we can really turn up the volume if we want, and we can clip the microphone a lot easier. But the big advantage over here is now we can push the microphone a little bit back, perhaps even out of the shot, increase the volume of my preamp, and hopefully you can hear me quite well. I can see my audio levels have dropped, but if you want to have a scenario where you have the microphone perhaps out of the shot like this, we can turn it up even more, and obviously you hear more room noise, but with the preamp, it just adds a level of flexibility and scenarios where you have possible limitations with the 7B original microphone if you don't have a nice powerful preamp, or if you're mobile and want to have a compact setup and not rely on too much external hardware. Now, in terms of the overall look and design of the 7DB, it's pretty much the same as the 7B. With the addition of some extra controls at the back of the microphone, you can see that we have 4 dip switches. The lower switches control the bypass switch, which turns off the preamp, and you can also set the level of gain on the preamp, either plus 28 or plus 18 decibels. On the top 2 switches, you find your EQ settings. You can either set them to a flat frequency response, and we still have the same frequency response as the original microphone, where it can capture up to 50 to 20,000 hertz. You still have the EQ settings for either bass roll-off or a presence gain. And of course, you can use it in its flat response setting and change the settings for EQ via software. Now, in summary, I would definitely have to say my brief time with the 7 DB has been really fun. The sound quality is exactly the same as the 7B, so most people won't have any problems with that. And just the added flexibility definitely makes it worth the extra $100 to $150 that they charge extra for this. And just the fact that it becomes a little bit more mobile, portable, and quicker to set up is definitely a positive aspect as well. Love to know what you guys are using for a dedicated microphone for your video conferencing or for your podcast if you have one, and love to know what you guys think is the best broadcast mic of all time. I definitely think the 7B is probably up there in terms of its legendary status from a broadcasting standpoint, but love to know what you guys think. Big thanks to Shure for supplying us with this review unit. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and share this content if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Take care.